With everyone talking about The Force Awakens, how does a pseudo-religious peacekeeping force go from a massive power in the galaxy to mostly myth?
It's not true. That's impossible!
So Star Wars The Force Awakens takes place 30 years after Return of the Jedi, and the Jedi themselves have become more legend than reality. But the Jedi operated as peacekeepers for the galaxy for centuries. How could they have been forgotten to the point where Han Solo himself has to convince another character these legends are fact? Which is quite the turnaround. A character went from this
Wokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side.
to this.
It's true. All of it.
But if you think about it, the Jedi are already a mystery in the time of Episode 1. Anakin Skywalker is aware of what the Jedi are, but he regards them nearly as supernatural beings.
No one can kill a Jedi.
Watto is also at least vaguely aware that Jedi can cloud your mind.
What, do you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that?
But it's also very clear that neither of them have ever met a Jedi nor seen their abilities in person. This makes sense. The galaxy is a big place, and the Jedi operate as a religious peacekeeping force for centers of the Republic, and Tatooine is, well...
If there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
I see so.
But skip all that. The Emperor's Order 66 purge drove the Jedi to extinction. Yoda and Obi-Wan are more or less the sum total of the Jedi knowledge. And the Sith are secretive. It's unlikely that Palpatine or Vader ever made a big deal of the fact that they too were devout monks of a dark religion. The Emperor just wanted power, and Vader was twisted by his fear for his family into helping the Emperor gain control. What's likely is that the Emperor destroys holocrons, swaps out the books in the Empire-mandated school system, and suddenly your grandpa's stories about magical space wizards with unstoppable swords begins to seem a bit far-fetched. With the galaxy full of people who are only vaguely aware of what a Jedi is and have never seen one, it would only take a generation or so before that knowledge started to seem a bit suspect. Eventually, you'd reach a point where even those in the Empire's top brass don't fully respect the Force.
Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
If you were in that room, do you tell that story to others? And if you do, the result is that Vader attempted a parlor trick and got his leash yanked by a Grand Moff. Vader doesn't seem like a powerful space monk here, he seems like a petty magician. Even Luke Skywalker, the last surviving Jedi, doesn't really make a dent in the world of Star Wars in a public way. Every time he does something uncanny or by directly drawing on the Force, he's alone. To most, Luke was a gifted pilot, not a magical one. When people talk about Hoth, they're going to talk about a complex and effectively controlled retreat from an overwhelmingly powerful enemy. They'll all remember Luke's clever use of the tow cable, but how many people saw this? Han Solo was perhaps Luke's best friend. They had a bond based on mutual respect and having seen some serious shit together. But even Han didn't buy the fact that Luke now belonged to the Jedi at first.
Luke's crazy. He can't even take care of himself, much less rescue anybody. A Jedi Knight? I'm out of it for a little while. Everybody gets delusions of grandeur.
Solo has to be somewhat aware of the legends of the Jedi Knights, but the idea that one is operating in his time and it's his friend, he rejects it completely out of hand.
The shield is down. Commence attack on the Death Star's main reactor.
The Battle of Endor was a huge turning point for the rebellion and it marked the beginning of the fall of the Empire. From the point of view of the galaxy, it was a massive naval battle in space that culminated in the loss of the second Death Star. Millions of life forms took part in the battle or saw its result from space. But the rebel leadership didn't even know Vader and the Empire were on the massive space station.
Vader's here. Now, on this moon.
How do you know?
I felt his presence. He's come for me. He can feel when I'm near. That's why I have to go. As long as I stay, I'm endangering the group and our mission here. I have to face him.
Luke didn't even face Vader for the rebellion, he did it because he was a liability. Hell, it's possible no one in the rebel leadership even knew a mental duel between three space wizards had ever been part of the Battle of Endor until it was over. Luke is the only one who can tell a story of what happened there, because the other two men in the Empire's throne room are dead. That's not part of the story that the rebellion is likely to shout about in Coruscant. People barely remember the Jedi, the Sith are a complete blank, and the heroes of the Battle of Endor were Akbar, Lando, the rebel strike team on the Forest Moon, not Luke Skywalker. In the face of this, the speculation that Luke goes into hiding before the events of The Force Awakens makes sense. The rebellion is over, and I don't think there will be much support for involving legendary space wizards in the new galactic government. Luke himself is vestigial to the rebellion, much less his entire religion. This is how the Jedi lapse into legend, and why we haven't seen Luke in any of the trailers, and why Solo is so sure of what really happened. He knows because Leia knows, and it's likely Luke told him the story in confidence. The very idea of the Jedi and Sith may be passed around in the oral tradition in the 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, but it's doubtful anyone really believes it. Like Tatooine, Jakku, where Rey has grown up, is a backwater world. And based on the trailers, Finn was raised by the remnants of the same Imperial Order that laughed at Vader's sad devotion. It's not surprising that they wouldn't be certain that the Jedi were ever real. The universe is a large place, and the Jedi filled a small niche in a government dead 30 years before they were born.
I will finish what you started.
But what if the dark side began collecting relics of the past, and the light side started to use a legendary weapon? It may be time to begin to believe once again.
The Force, it's calling to you.